After doing research for my last video on the March of the Rings, it came to my attention that March was the single most eventful month in the tale of the Fellowship, and it got me wondering, why would Tolkien mark this month as the triumph of the war? Welcome back, Fellowship. Welcome to the Sword of the Ring, a place for all sorts of lore with a special focus on Middle-earth, Hogwarts, Alagasia, and a galaxy far, far away. I made this channel to start a dialogue on some of my favorite topics, but I don't advertise myself as an expert, so please feel free to correct me down in the comments. I would love to get to know your thoughts on these universes. Today, we discuss Tolkien's spirituality and what parts of that may have influenced his world and the destruction of the One Ring. The Lord of the Rings is, of course, a fundamentally religious and Catholic work. Unconsciously so at first, but consciously in the revision. That is why I have not put in or have cut out practically all references to anything like religion, to cults or practices in the imaginary world, for the religious element is absorbed into the story and the symbolism. It is widely known that Tolkien was a Christian, and more to the point, a Catholic. He and C.S. Lewis are two of the most prominent Christian authors in post-war England. Tolkien was a devout Catholic his entire life. C.S. Lewis, on the other hand, was a self-avowed atheist for 15-odd years before returning to the Anglican Church in his 30s. While Lewis would go on to create an extremely allegorical Narnia, heavy with Christian themes and characters, Tolkien developed a non-religious, non-allegorical world of Middle-earth. So, why would he say The Lord of the Rings is, of course, a fundamentally religious and Catholic work? As for message, I have none really. I was primarily writing an exciting story, but in such a process, inevitably one's own taste, ideas, and beliefs get taken up. There's some definite connections to be made between Christian belief and Middle-earth. Frodo's journey is one of temptation and sacrifice. The Fellowship is filled with others tempted by not just the power of the ring, Boromir, but other worldly possessions. I'm looking at you, Pippin. We can even see the creation of the One Ring as the birth of original sin. And the Fellowship is also called, much like the Apostles, to leave their old lives and help carry this burden for others. But where is the Christ figure? There isn't one. Tolkien vehemently denies the appearance of a Christ-like figure in letter 181. The incarnation of God is an infinitely greater thing than anything I would dare to write. Seems like a pretty fair case for excluding a Christ-like figure. Alright, now to get to the real crux of the topic for today's video. If Lord of the Rings is, in fact, a fundamentally Catholic work, why, then, is March the most eventful month? Well, it all centers on the end of the journey, March 25th. March 25th in the Catholic tradition is held to be the Annunciation of our Lord, exactly 9 months before Christmas. It has also been cited since early Christianity as the date of Christ's crucifixion, which means Holy Week would also have occurred during this month. Some scholars even argue that Adam was created and Abraham prepared his sacrifice on March 25th. And what do we know happens on March 25th in Middle-earth? Frodo and Sam complete their journey and, with the aid of Gollum, destroy the One Ring, also known as Sin, and Sauron, aka the Devil. And about 1 week before that, we see the return of the king into Minas Tirith after the Battle of Pelennor Fields, reminiscent of Palm Sunday. And, along the way to the Black Gate, Aragorn dismisses those who are fearful, treating them much like Peter abandoning and denying Jesus on that holy night in the garden. 2 years later, on March 25th, 3021, Eleanor the Fair, Samwise Gamgee's daughter, is born and new life begins in the Shire. To make matters even more clear, from a Catholic influence perspective, the Fellowship sets out to destroy the One Ring on what date? That's right, December 25th. Thanks to Tea with Tolkien, Word on Fire, and the National Catholic Register for helping with this one. Thanks for watching, and be sure to let me know what else you want to hear about down in those comments. I'll be with you next time on The Sword and the Ring.